We to believe that it is just a coincidence that this cabal of liberal insiders received this $200 million sweetheart loan.
Well, that didn't last long. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we have China putting tariffs on Canada. That's right, one sector of the industry, but this looks ridiculous considering Carney was supposed to have this new strategic partnership and they're already putting tariffs on us. We got some more updates from the Middle East, some stuff from the House of Commons, a whole bunch of stuff. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, we got Mark Carney over in Norway watching a NATO exercise. I think we all know what's going on here. Despite, he can have photos with Chancellor Merz of Germany or Norwegian PM Jonas Store, Carney went over there just to get closer to Rome so then he could go vacation there and not have this flight of him flying the big gas guzzling jet all the way to Rome for his vacation. That's what he's doing here. We're not dumb, Carney. Them standing around and watching NATO exercises. How does this benefit Canada whatsoever? We got this one here coming from Bloomberg. Ontario teachers posts first private equity loss since 2009, as in the OTPP. As this account Market Mania points out, Ontario teachers OTPP, the pension fund, just got smacked with a minus 5.3% loss in private equity for 2025, missing their benchmark by a staggering 23%. Now, this is important because the OTPP is one of the ones that invested in Mark Carney's fund. We can see it right here. Number 2, Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, assets under management, $270 billion. This is a founding member in Brookfield's Global Transition Fund 1, the fund that Mark Carney set up that he gets carried interest from. So this is bad for his profits in that fund. And we can see it right here off this website. So OTPP right here, Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1, as an anchor investor. It's almost like the net zero agenda isn't making money. It's just all a big scam. We've got Andy Lee posting this one. The Governor General in 2026 Leadership Convention Conference on leading Canada's sustainability prosperity cost us $850,000. The jokes write themselves. Yeah, you can see Rideau Hall Foundation, Governor General's Canadian Leadership Conference. I mean, this is disgusting. $850,000. What a waste of money. They claim it's privately funded, yet the Governor General's office itself costs us over $36 million a year. If these leaders want to talk about sustainable prosperity, they should start by sustaining their own conferences without a single cent of taxpayer-funded infrastructure or staff. That's a great comment. Moving ahead, we've got China tariffing Canada because apparently the love has been lost between Xi Jinping and Carney. That's right, China announces anti-dumping duty on certain rubber imports from India, Japan, and Canada. It says here, China will impose anti-dumping duties on imports of halogenated butyl rubber from India, China, Japan, including a probe into alleged dumping, the Ministry of Commerce of China said on Friday, according to Reuters. It added that tariffs up to 30.1% will be imposed on shipments from Japan and Canada starting March 14th. The anti-dumping measures will remain in place for 5 years, the statement said. On this website here, we get a bit of a different read on this. This one points out that the halogenated butyl rubber originating from these 3 countries, but it also mentions specific numbers here. It says Japan Butyl Co. will get a tariff rate of 15%, while other Japanese companies will get 30.1%. The rate for Arlexio, Canada Inc., and other Canadian firms will be 13.8%, according to MOFCOM. So it looks like we're going to have a 14% tariff on this sort of rubber. This rubber is used on a few things, pharmaceuticals, inner tube tires. Regardless, this is embarrassing. I mean, Carney went over there, negotiated a deal, and China even had a delay on taking off the tariffs off of peas and canola, all that kind of stuff. And then here they are adding another tariff onto Canada. Like, getting into bed with China is such a bad idea. Now, if we break this down here, we've got this on Trading Economics. We can see Canada exports to China, and this is our total exports you can see per year. It was 21.1 billion in 2024. We've got 22.6 billion in 2023, and it breaks it down by all the different products here. So the number 1 export is mineral fuels, oils, distillation products, basically oil. We're sending over the oil and gas. And then we've got ore, slag, and ash, oil seed, fruits, grain seeds, fruits, wood, cereals, etc. But if we scroll down, we've got rubbers right here, 73.45 million per year. So it's not the biggest sector. You can see the products on the side here. It's not that big, but regardless, it is still an industry that's getting hit here. So either these producers will have to increase their price and make it more expensive in China, then likely they'll lose sales, or they have to eat some of that cost. It's 13-14%, thus making less money here in Canada. Either way, it's not good for Canada. This is embarrassing for Carney. He sets up a strategic partnership, and right away, was it a month and a half, 2 months later, Xi Jinping's putting more tariffs on Canada? Is this who he really wants to get into business with? Moving ahead, we've got some world news here. First off, North Korea fires projectile to the Sea of Japan. Goes on to say here, the incident came amid the ongoing military drills between between South Korea, the United States, titled Freedom Shield. Pyongyang previously said that holding those exercises will have consequences. So North Korea, I guess it's feeling left out with the whole situation in Iran. Speaking of Iran, we've got this. Iran threatens to target US-linked oil infrastructure. Yeah, that's not going to work out well. If they hit anything of any importance, Trump will just wipe out their whole electrical grid and they'll be absolutely forced back into the Stone Age. It says Iranian Armed Forces Qadam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters threatened to destroy oil infrastructure linked to the United States in response to the country's attack on Karag Island. So Karag Island is their big oil infrastructure island where apparently 90% of it goes through there. And Trump set into strikes to hit all of their defenses there all in one big go. So clearly they're pissed off about that. We've also got this here saying Iran wanted to make a deal and Trump is refusing. So Donald Trump claimed that Iran wanted to make a deal on its nuclear status amid Washington and Israel's joint operation against it, but it's a deal that he would not accept. Moving ahead here, the Strait of Hormuz has become the complete bottleneck for oil and oil prices around the world. Obviously, Donald Trump knows this and he doesn't want the price to go up any higher because it's bad for him politically. It's also bad for the world. And what we have here, we've got the United States deploying 2,500 Marines in the Strait of Hormuz. What we're looking at here are military vehicles that can drive on land and they're boats. And after they deploy in the water, you'll see the Marines pop out of the top here. These are some crazy vehicles. Now, there's debate in the comments section of whether this footage here is from the Strait of Hormuz or if this is from somewhere in America. People are saying it's Camp Pendleton. Regardless, it's in the news here. U.S. orders 2,500 Marines and amphibious assault to Mid-East after almost 2 weeks of war. So they are deploying troops over there to try to strengthen and solidify the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this is an American, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Canadians doing this. This guy lives in a storage facility. He lives in one of these secretly. He plugged his unit into this power outlet and just ran the wire there. I guess the facility owner hasn't noticed this.
Its power is going to my unit unless you are looking closely. So this is my unit here, and at the top of the unit you can see I have an antenna, and that's so I can get a cell signal inside the unit itself, because once you close the door it drops all signal. I have a lock which I've magnetized onto the door so it looks like it's locked even when it's not. And then when I actually do want to lock it, I can just use this lock or use another one down here and leave that one there. All right, so let's take a look at the unit now. So in here I've got my TV, entertainment center set up there. I've got my bed. I've got my kitchen area over there, complete with a fridge.
This guy lives in a double wide storage container. This is so sad. This is not how people should live.
And sort of lock it from the inside.
He locks himself in.
And this toaster oven actually works pretty well, I'd say.
How long is he going to be able to live there before somebody figures this out?
There's the Tupperware. And then over here, I've got food cupboard, all my food. And this is the sink I've built. And the sink is basically like a 25-liter container filled with water. And
I think at this rate, he'd be better to find a oversized van and move into that, because then he can never be evicted.
I've attached these tubes here. So you just open it up, and then the water comes down this tube. And
if you have citizens living like this, then something has gone wrong.
Out there. So you've got running water. You can do dishes. Go and get whatever you need. I just got 2x4s, really long 2x4s, and put them all the way across the unit. And then I used L brackets to build shelving down from that.
This is absolutely insane. Bathroom question mark? Yeah, there's a bathroom in the facility. I don't know about a shower, maybe showers at the gym. We've got this one from committee, Conservative Michael Cooper, saying that the lobbying commissioner confirms that Carney dodged the lobbying act while he was Trudeau's economic advisor. He used a loophole to avoid reporting on who he met with and what was discussed, all while Brookfield profited from conveniently timed government policies. These guys have been ripping us off for years. And what does Carney do now? He goes over to India, meets with people that he did deals with when he was at Brookfield, against the law. He should be prosecuted. Goes to Australia, same thing. Goes to Japan, same thing.
In September 2024, Mark Carney was appointed by then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as the chair of the Leaders Task Force on Economic Growth. In this capacity, Carney had direct access to the Prime Minister. Indeed, Justin Trudeau touted Carney Carney as his economic advisor. Normally, the economic advisor to the Prime Minister would be housed within the Prime Minister's office. But in this case, Carney technically was not. He was instead held out as an advisor to the leader of the Liberal Party, who just happened to be the Prime Minister. Had Carney been housed in the Prime Minister's office, he would have been a designated public office holder under the Lobbying Act, correct?
Been appointed under Section 128, yes, of the Public Service Employment Act, yes, he would have been.
Yes, he would have. They found a way to dodge the law, and that's what they did.
So in simple terms, we have no idea about who lobbied Mark Carney and what they lobbied him on while he was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. Is that fair?
Unless there was some other transparent mechanism under the Lobbying Act, no.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's not another mechanism. They went around the law.
So while Mark Carney served as Justin Trudeau's economic advisor and had the ear of the Prime Minister on matters of government policy, we'll never know who he met with, what was discussed, and what influence those discussions had over decisions made by the Prime Minister and the government. Yet it appears to be a clear circumvention or attempt to circumvent the Lobbying Act in the same way that Mark Carney tried to circumvent the Conflict of Interest Act while he held that same role.
I'm not going to get into, what were the intents and whatever. I mean, that is the result.
This is just disgusting. Our country is so corrupt. We're going to turn into North Korea soon. Moving ahead here, we've got Michael Cooper posting this clip where he's bringing up that story I had maybe 3 or 4 or 5 days ago, talking about Liberal insiders getting this $200 million loan, as he says here, including family members and former cabinet ministers. Liberals giving Liberals a loan for a wind turbine project. Just listen to Tim Hodgson's response on this.
The Liberals handed out a $200 million below market value loan to a company to build a wind farm in Nova Scotia. It turns out that the chair of the company is the former leader of the Nova Scotia Liberal Party, and 3 of the directors are close family members of former Liberal MPs. So given that, Are we to believe that it is just a coincidence that this cabal of Liberal insiders received this $200 million sweetheart loan?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, I know the member opposite likes to think about cabals and conspiracies. Maybe he
There it is. As I said in a previous video, they're just going to keep saying all this stuff is conspiracy theory to try to diminish and completely wipe out the validity of it. If you bring in very concrete facts and lots of facts, bring in the dollar amounts, the location, the dates, when they say this, it looks ridiculous because then people can look up like $200 million, wind turbine project, Liberal family members, etc. And it pops up and then suddenly Tim Hodgson looks like he's lying to Canadians. If somebody does that research on their own, people at home who have time will start to look this stuff up. If they're not getting media from places like me or other creators on YouTube who break all this stuff down, they'll start looking this stuff up, realize they're being lied to by the government, and then their vote will change.
To talk to the Conservative Premier of Nova Scotia, who stood beside us and said this was one of the best projects he's ever seen, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Tim Houston is not a real conservative. Not to mention, Tim Houston is wrapped up in this whole green hydrogen scam with Enterwind Fuels, Trent Veachy having these private meetings here. 2024, Premier Houston traveled to New York City where he engaged in multiple private meetings with Trent Veachy, who's the head of Enterwind Fuels, North America's leading independent green hydrogen developer. Green hydrogen is a scam. They use seawater, hydrogen, oxygen, hydrolyzer. They split it, they convert it multiple times, ship it over to places like Germany where they have an import terminal, then convert it back into energy, losing 80% of the energy in the process. This isn't a smart project. There's entire articles breaking down how awful this is. You can look at these articles here. Green hydrogen is a gargantuan scam from the halifaxexaminer.ca. They have another one here. Obviously dishonest. Tim Houston repeatedly met with green hydrogen investor Trent Veachy. This is what I've got written over here where he had these undisclosed meetings. As it says, initially these meetings were not disclosed in Houston's official expense reports, leading to scrutiny over transparency. So yeah, Tim Houston, not exactly the shining example of being a conservative. And if you want more details on it, I have the video right here. Tim Houston backs green hydrogen.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about a $200 million sweetheart loan to Liberal insiders. Canadians deserve to know that their tax dollars are not being handed out on the basis of political connections to this government. So, if in fact everything is above board, the Liberals should have no trouble releasing all of the documents and all of the terms of the loan. Will they?
Hear, hear. What this is a large megawatt wind farm that's producing thousands of jobs in Ontario, in Nova Scotia, giving giving the opportunity of people from Nova Scotia to buy renewable power.
Yeah, once again, renewable power because what, this guy's invested in Brookfield? I still can't get his investments. They won't release it. I've emailed them asking for it. This is ridiculous. Our energy minister has investments, but we don't get to know what they are. And the question was, will they release the documents? And he's just going on to babble about this because obviously there's something sinister in there.
This is good for Nova Scotia. That's why the Premier of Nova Scotia stood beside it and said it was a great project, Mr. Speaker.
There's no credibility over here. These guys are losers. Wind is not an effective energy source. What more can the CPC do to hold government accountable and stop this abuse of taxpayer dollars besides raising concerns in the House of Commons? Seems like a half-hearted attempt. You got to use more facts, very specific facts, because then when he calls this conspiracy theory, it makes him look like a complete liar. When it's more generalized, it's easier for them to get away with that.